Sorry.
So again, afternoon, councillors. Welcome everyone and staff. I think we're all present. It's gone 4:30. So I'll open the meeting. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on this afternoon, the Wiradjuri people, and humbly pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. The housekeeping, we've only got 3 members of staff in the chamber that know the way to the emergency exit. So the next item on the agenda is the matter of this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. And we have a couple of people who speak in public forum again tonight. So I just want to let them know that anything they say when they're invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live streaming and recording document. The chair and or the general manager has the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour or comments. Speaking of public forum, we have 2 speakers at public forum today to speak on item 2190. And the first person to speak on that notice of motion today is Jan Martin. You there, Jan? There you are.
Yeah.
Same as last time, Jan. 5 minutes. If I start the clock and you're going at the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a little wave to let you know that you have a minute left. So I'll hand it over to you. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you. Good evening again, councillors. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight again on the issue that I thought had been resolved last month on the motion from Mr Melross regarding his DA for the motocross track on the Olympic Highway north of Young, which is being brought to the council for a second vote this afternoon. I'm extremely concerned regarding the inaccurate notice I received following the last meeting. This notice says that the matter was tabled last month and no determination was made. I was still on the Zoom call and heard the debate and was aware that the motion was voted on and lost 7 votes to 4. This is also recorded in the draft minutes of the meeting, of which I have a copy. If a rescission motion has been put, it still does not make the notice I received as an accurate outcome of the meeting. There is certainly no reference to it in the minutes. My concerns
I must pull you up for a moment. It's not a rescission motion that's in front of council. It's a motion that's been brought back to council under a clause that sits in our council meeting practice policy. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that and clear of that. So everything has been done in accordance with our policy. I'll hand back over to you.
I was not aware of that because there was no notification to me that it happened. My concern over the approval still remains the same, as there's absolutely nothing to stop Hayden Melross and his teammates from riding 6 days a week for 52 weeks of the year. There are no penalties in place if he ignores the conditions of the track use, and no one willing to monitor the use. As I said last month, my complaints have not been dealt with, as the council staff say there's nothing they can do. Self-monitoring will not suffice in this case, as the applicant and his son Hayden have a history of non-compliance to council and government requests. And rules
Jan, you just need to be careful with comments along those lines to make sure that if you're questioned on those comments, you can back that up with evidence.
Fair enough, because I've complained before. I'm a long-term ratepayer who's consistently supported and given back to this community through my life in Young, and it's unacceptable to receive the disdain and aggression I've received from Hayden, who is not a local community member. It's also a precedent I don't want to see set, bringing others...
Jan, I might just interrupt you. This will be the last time I interrupt you. The next time, if I have to come in again, I will bring your comments to a halt. You need to make your comments factual, not emotional, and not in regard to personal issues between yourself and any other person. So I'll hand back over to you now, Jan. Just might think about how you put forward your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
My real problem is the noise that this activity creates in the adjoining rural residential blocks. These were set up for local residents to enjoy peaceful hobby farm activities and do not include intensive stock keeping, as in poultry or dog kennels, due to the excessive noise and pollution. To now allow a commercial motocross school in this area conflicts against the existing peaceful land use of the area. I have strong doubts that the noise evaluation previously completed is a true and accurate account of the output from 3 or 4 large high-powered motocross bikes as they rev up to gain the height for the large jump that has been created on the track. There are already other motocross tracks in the area and motocross schools have been held there before, so there seems to be no need to create another one. I purchased my home well before Mr. Melrose purchased his land and built the track for his son, who is not a resident in the Shire. I've spoken to many residents in the area and we do not think this is a fair and reasonable activity for all the other residents in our area to have to live with. I've spent years creating a garden that's full of birds, and yet when the track is in use, I have to go inside to talk on the phone, let alone hear the birds. I would hope you continue to vote against the DA, or at least, the very least, put much stronger restrictions and monitoring processes in place that all the other residents in our area can enjoy a peaceful home life. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne, for that. Okay, the second speaker we have in public forum tonight on the same item, 2190, is Tracy Melrose. You there, Tracy?
Yes, I am.
Yep, welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
It's your opportunity to speak in open forum, the same as everyone else. You get 5 minutes, and if you reach the 4-minute mark, I'll just let you know you're up to the 4-minute mark.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the councillors for allowing me to have my time. I'm just going to do a brief point form of this. The application that that Jan's complaining about, we have not had the complaints of the past, if any can be found, are about another activity or period of distance circumstance. The DA is clearly defined that and has been clearly draft conditioned for the proposed use in the recommendations laid on the table before council. The application, we would think that it's not going to be discriminated against because of anything personal. The council staff have assessed this matter from their professional expertise and referrals to other professionals and subsequently have recommended approval. All amenity, noise, hours of use, environmental and health matters have been addressed, assessed and recommended for approval subject to the controlling conditions where necessary. So I can't see any grounds for refusal are evident. Where is the line between riding for fun on a farm and a controlled and specified activity? Will council play a more active role in holding the same standard being applied to our farm as others? The children in our family are all expert riders. Hayden is a world-class athlete. He does not just ride around the farm making a lot of racket noise. He has a controlled training regime. He does 30-minute motos, a maximum of 3 30-minute motos in any one day. And I don't know where Jan got that it's 6 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. Hayden, even when he is in training, it's only training. Most of the time it's during the week. Most of the weekends he's gone away. And I don't like saying that he's not a local member of the community. He was born in this town. He's very much a local. He's had to leave to get able to be riding on tracks because he isn't allowed to use his own track because he doesn't want to cause any friction or cause problems for anyone. The noise complaint, we had to get an analysis of all the major issues. The noise, the environment, the road impact have occurred and found to be reasonable. It cost us a lot of money to have these done because we didn't want to get them done by any second grade person. It had to be done by a professional. The sunset consent startup 12-month trial makes sense, and it's not contested by us in any way, not even letting this process start or for no clear stated reason does not conflict with the professional assessment. It's just not right. Allowing unproven hearsay to influence a debate is worrisome at the best. My son has never broken any government rules. He has.
Yep. Tracy,
yes?
I might just make similar comment to yourself. You need to keep your comments on point to the application and keep the personalities out of it, please.
Okay, no, that's fine. A councillor involving themselves within a debate and even in indirect pecuniary interest would appear to be contrary to council's meeting policy at the local Act 1993. I just want to say that we're just trying, we've done everything to comply to council. We've done, the zoning was changed. We have tried to put this track back to council years ago, but we're told when we went in and seen them that we had to hold back because the zoning was wrong. We kept our son as much off the track as possible. The trucks that go past this road are far exceeding. I cannot understand how Jan's comment about, and this is not personal, this is just reacting to her thing, is that she can't go outside and talk. I can talk on the phone and they're just riding down there. It's the kids across the road are riding. I can still talk on my phone. I think this is a little personal.
30 seconds, Tracy. You've got about 30 seconds.
Okay. I think this is a little personal for Jan. She's been complaining about this for a long time, and I don't want to cause any friction. We've all got to live here together. This is why we've asked for the stipulated requirements and what rules you've put down to do. And we're quite happy to abide by that. We just want it to be fair and reasonable. Like we think, you know, if this doesn't get passed by council, I think that we won't just sit there. We've just got to take this further again to the Land Environment Court. And I don't want to go down that track, but like this is, to me, we've done everything that has been asked us to get a DA approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Tracy. I apologise. There's another speaker to speak on this matter, and there were some lines drawn before me I didn't notice. On the same matter, 2190, and that is Mr. Hank Dole. You there, Hank?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Prior to the applicant's DA, there was a meeting at my home. Present were Darren Melross, his son Matthew Melross, Jen Martin, Rena van Ommeren, Ian Butt, and myself. We spoke at length about their desire to make it possible for Hayden to achieve the pinnacle of his profession as a motocross rider. We also spoke about their desire to have a motocross school at their premises. During the meeting, it was brought to our attention that Hayden could not physically train more than one day in a row, i.e. that he could not train more than 3 days a week. When we proposed 3 days a week as a compromise, this was not acceptable by Mr. Melrose and his son. Furthermore, in her address to council on Wednesday, August the 26th, Tracy Melrose also referred to her son's capacity to only wanting to train on alternative days, as it was too high to train on his physique. In an open permission to be able to train 6 days a week, and that is in the DA, doesn't seem to be what Hayden desires. And we therefore ask council to amend the motion to reflect our compromise and the applicant's own admission there is no need for a 6 days a week permission. Prior to completion, there will be a time, prior to a competition, there will be a time where Hayden will want to train more extensively, and we understand that desire. We do, however, like to see that this will be connected to competitions only, and be advised timely of such an occurrence. We expect these events won't occur more than a few times, maybe about 3 times a year, as we believe most of his competitions are in America. I believe there is room to come to an acceptable compromise, which is not in the DA at the moment in front of council, which will be of interest to all persons in the neighboring properties. Furthermore, as mentioned in the submission to council, we would like the application to be only approved, if approved, with a compromise for a 1-year proposal. I would only like to put Council's attention to the fact that DA Busters, in their letter of the 14th of April 2020, on behalf of the applicant state, only 2 riders on the track at any one time, even during a 4-bike training session. See page 2 and 4 of their agenda in the 5th paragraph. Question we have to Council: why is the recommendation to Council to allow not more than 4 riders on the track at any one time? That's twice as many and twice as much noise. If, meaning Hayden, is overseas, the track is not in use, which is also in the DA Busters letter. See page 285, item 4. Comment of our objection: it would be appropriate to add a condition that the track can only be used when Hayden needs to use it. Application for use by other people as well. See page 2 or 3. Why allow the possibility to use the track 6 days per week, which, if approved, will stay with the land forever? 4. Add a track, 2 on the track at any one time in relation to the training camps. See page 285, item 5. Same question. Why does the recommendation of Council refer to 4 riders on track, which they are stipulating there will only be 2?
Got about 40 seconds, Hank.
Thank you. This is it. This is it for me. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much for that, Hank. Okay. Put that there for the time being. We move on to item 4, attendance, and any apologies been received?
Yes, from Councillor Rolls.
We have an apology from Councillor Rolls. Anyone that's missing? Someone like to move? We accept. Moved Councillor Walker.
Manchester.
Seconded Councillor Manchester. We accept the apology. Councillor Rolls, thank you. Brings me to item 5, the expressions of sympathy. Could staff and councillors please be upstanding? We have a moment's silence for the following, please. Judith Gorham, Thora Thompson, George Cathorn, Peter Hewson, Maxwell Haycox, Sister Sheehan, Adam Fitzpatrick, Dorothy Mills, Margaret Boydell, Gordon Summerfield, Wayne Starr, Trevor Howell. Thank you, everybody. So we go to item 6 on the agenda, which is the confirmations of the minutes from our last meeting. Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour, they. Thank you, councillors.
Yep, unanimous.
Unanimous, yep. Takes me to item 7, disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest? Councillor Flannery has his hand up. Councillor.
2190. I will participate or will ask questions, but I won't vote.
Thank you, councillor. So I'm not too sure if that's a non-substantial, non-pecuniary or...
Non-pecuniary.
Okay, thank you. Any other disclosures? No? Okay. Item 8, no mayoral minute. 9 is the mayor's report and the diary there. Councillors, I will just speak on one of those items that are listed in my diary, and that's the item on the 4th of September, discussions regarding cancellation of the proposed Spring Carnival in Young. Now, I was made aware of this via social media and then by a council officer, that it was being reported that there would be a spring carnival held in Young on the weekend, and it would be set up the week prior to it. And this was all okayed by the Young Showground Trust. When I received the message I started making some phone calls to the Secretary of the Showground Trust and to the President of the Young Showground Trust, as I sit on the Trust currently as a councillor. The Trust has 4 members, all volunteers, no one gets paid, all community-minded people that are on the Trust. There's also a member from the President of the Young Harness Racing Club, is an ex officio on that committee as well. When I rang to find out who had given the okay for this spring fair, because I hadn't been contacted, and while I wasn't in town, my phone's never far away, I was informed by another Trust member that no other Trust members knew anything about it. The decision had been made by the Secretary of the Young Showground Trust and the President of the Young Showground Trust without any communication to any other Trust members. I made both those people aware of my thoughts and indicated to them that they can't do that, and that's not the way business is done. And I don't know what they were thinking about allowing a spring fair into our community the way things were with COVID-19. The answer was I was told that the person who contacted them said they had the appropriate paperwork and were COVID safe and everything was honky-dory. That gentleman was the President of the New South Wales Show Society Guild. I contacted that gentleman on behalf of our community because the documents hadn't been produced. I'm not saying he didn't have them, but no one had seen them, and made him aware that because I spoke to some departments in the health area and the local superintendent of the police, that the spring fair would not be going ahead. Without any resistance at all, that was thought to be okay, and indicated that they would go to Parks and Forbes and happily on their way. And I said, I wish them all the best and I'm very good, but I didn't think it was appropriate to be in our community. The reason I mention that is, tonight, I will not be sitting on the Young Showground Trust any longer. I've been on that trust for a number of years, being president of the Harness Racing Club, then through council, and I've seen some things happen that, when volunteers work really hard to make things happen, a bit of give and take. But given the decision that was made in regard to this matter, and it was reported to the community that the Showground Trust had okayed this, I can no longer have my name associated with those type of comments. And I speak also for some other members on the Trust who didn't know and weren't aware of what had gone on without their knowledge. So there will be a position from a councillor to sit on the Young Showground Trust after tonight, because I will no longer have my name associated with that organisation. Sorry about that, but I know that there have been considerable questions asked to people just about how that situation came around. So there's that one. There's a 1st of September monthly meeting with residents via phone. Luckily, no one contacted me that day because I was probably not able to answer the phone on the 1st of September, but my mistake for not letting the staff know not to put it in there. And there's one to add on there, was yesterday. I attended a meeting with the General Manager, Councillor Armstrong, and some staff at the Lambing Flat Chinese Gardens to have a look at some items out there. So thank you. So could I have someone move that we accept that? Thank you, Councillor Horton. Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is the councillors' reports. I have some listed there in front of me. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 5th of September, I attended the Bribri Showground on behalf of yourself to view the new equestrian facility there. Absolutely fantastic development, great for a village, and certainly great for the community in general. On the 15th of September, the LEP workshop for councillors. The 16th, the councillors' briefing in regards to the Chinese Garden update on the waste strategy. 21st of September is councillors' code of conduct training, pretty poorly attended, I believe. 23rd of September, and yesterday, the 22nd, meeting with yourself, council staff, the GM at the Chinese Gardens, to discuss the progress of the project there, and today's meeting as part of the Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll come down the board now. I'll go into Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 10th of September, I went to the sod turning at the Harden Country Club for the tennis courts. On the same day, taking your place, I was at the opening of the RFS zone headquarters in Harden as well, which was a very successful event and very well patronised. The 15th, I was at the LEP workshop. The 16th of September, the waste workshop. On the 18th of September, last Friday, I was at a climate consultation with Professor Tim Flannery and representatives from the Australian Museum, which is a very successful event, and I hope the discussions and negotiations between the groups continue. On Monday the 21st, I was at the Code of Conduct workshop training, and I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Tuckerman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 16th of September, I attended the workshop on waste strategy, and the 23rd of September, which is today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Along, Councillor Stadmiller.
Meetings as minuted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We go up to Councillor Horton, who's got some listed there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My activity is recorded in today's bulletin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll go straight above to Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine are all listed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That brings me back down around to Councillor Manchester.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The 2nd of the 9th, the Traffic Committee meeting. The 8th of the 9th, the Murrumburrah Precincts Plan meeting. The 10th of the 9th, the RFS Zone Headquarters opening. The 16th of the 9th, the Waste Strategy meeting. 21st of the 9th, the Code of Conduct. And today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Councillor Walker.
Meetings as minuted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Rolls has listed her the meetings that attended in the paper as well. So could I have a mover and a seconder for those reports, please? Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Stadmiller, thank you. All those in favour? Oh, that's unanimous, I presume, yep.
Mr. Mayor, could I just add my meetings?
Oh, Councillor Flannery, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Flannery.
8th of September, the precinct, and Murrumburrah Precinct, and the LEP on the 15th of September, and today's.
My apologies, Councillor Flannery. I'm sorry about that. I went round. I thought I had everyone ticked off and ticked off the wrong way. Thank you for that. Item number 11 is the Community Recognition Scheme, and I believe we have.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Mrs. Pat Potbury and Mr. Bill West for their ongoing service to the community at Bribri via involvement with development, enhancement and promotion of the Bribri Showground. In particular, I would like to acknowledge the 38 years service provided by Mr. Bill West to the Bribri Showground Trust. Thank heaven for volunteers.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Armstrong. And yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone that's in attendance would completely agree with you. And they're like all our small communities. They all get together and the volunteers and they do a fantastic job. So I'm only too happy for that to be put. Would someone like to move and second that we add that to our community recognition? Thank you, Councillor Horton and Councillor Armstrong. And all those in favour? Be unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next item, we go to the General Manager's report. But before we do that, because we had speakers in open forum, could I have a resolution to council to change the order of process to bring that forward, please? Councillor Manchester moved. Councillor O'Connor second. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Okay, so we go to page 200 of the paper copy. Councillors, the report's there and the recommendation is there. Do a mover and a second for the motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the motion.
Councillor Tuckerman.
I'll second the motion, Mr.
Second, Councillor Armstrong. I'm sorry, the screen's just moved around on me, that's all. Okay, I'm with you now. Okay, I've got a mover and a seconder. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Tuckerman?
Yes, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Clearly, there has been an issue with process in regards to this DA, and that's why it's before you this evening. The matter obviously is unresolved as there's been no formal motion of refusal. The notice of motion now put before you is in line with the staff's previous recommendations and has been put forward to ensure the appropriate assessment and resolution can formally happen in line with Council's Code of Meeting Practice and the Local Government Act. In support of the motion, I'd just like to say that it's quite clear that the DA has been defined and drafted to put this motion before it. It has all the amenity, noise, hours of use, environmental and health matters have been addressed and assessed and recommended by staff for its approval. I see no grounds for refusal that are evident, and it also has a safeguard within those recommendations to provide a 12-month consent. So it can be fully assessed and brought back before council if necessary. I think it's really important that councillors consider the matter carefully, and I also would like to say that Mr. Melross is an absolute world champion in this sport, and we should be celebrating the world champions that we have in our local government area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation?
I have a question, if I may.
After a question, Councillor Walker, allow a question.
Right. Condition 20 mentions before any use, there's two rows of trees to be in place for noise suppression. Oh no, sorry, for distractions from the from RMS from the Olympic Way. How is that being addressed? Is one question, and the second one I have is regarding dust suppression, and I'm not quite sure which condition that was. I think it was 29. 29 was on dust suppression. I mentioned dust suppression while the track was in use. What happens for dust suppression when it's not in use, given that it's disturbed ground or after the use of motorcycles?
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Director Scott, like to respond to those?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The landscaping will be effective once the DA is adopted, is endorsed, and we will be making that the trees will need to be planted prior to the use of the track. In regards to the dust suppression, it's quite a hard concrete, well, not concrete, but it's quite a hard sort of clay material that they use for these trucks. During the use of the track, they will obviously have to use some type of water or other type of source to suppress the dust. Post the use, I would assume that they would do their own maintenance to keep that dust at a minimum.
Thank you for that. Now I was asking someone who would speak against the recommendation. Councillor Manchester, was that, sorry? Councillor Manchester, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, look, it's not actually speaking against it. I want to foreshadow an amendment to this, but just added to that with the director's comment that she just made with regards to the trees. Are these going to be advanced trees that they plant? Obviously, if they plant small trees, it'll be 10 years before they'll be able to use the track.
Councillor Manchester, I might just pull you up there just on a little point of order. When council staff offer a response to a question that's been put to them by a councillor, we aren't really entitled to question their response. If you were to need further information about it, would probably need to be done in another forum.
Well, I just asked the question: are these advanced trees that are going to be planted?
If Director Scott would like to answer that, she can. If you feel like you'd like to take it on notice, or handle it however you'd like to do, Director.
We haven't specified, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't specified the type of tree. We have noted a mature height of up to 5 metres. We could potentially put in there if you want a certain litre size that must be planted at the time prior to use, a 45 litre or such, if you want to go down, or even a particular species. They have a species already planted along that corridor, and I assume that they will continue using that same species, which complied with the past DA consent, which is similar to this particular DA condition.
Thank you for that. So I've had Speaker 4 and a couple of questions. Speaker against, Councillor Flannery's got his hand in the air. Councillor Flannery.
Mr Mayor, just a couple of questions.
You're speaking against the Development Council?
No, I've just got questions, Mr Mayor, just to inform myself.
Thank you.
I had questions regarding the trees. Is there any need for the trees to be kept alive is one question. What happens if the conditions of consent are not applied to? It's not clear from the DA to me what council can avail itself of should there be a breach of any of the DA conditions. Is it normal, and question for the General Manager, I guess, or Director, is it usual for the applicant to maintain the register? If council's imposing the conditions, why isn't council maintaining the register? And what happened, do any adjoining landholders need to have certified noise monitoring to substantiate any complaints?
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Who would like to? Director Scott.
Yeah, I think I got through those 4 questions there. Sorry, Councillor Flannery. So through you, Mr Mayor, for the trees to be alive, obviously it's a 12-month DA consent. So at the time of a new consent that will be put to council at the conclusion of these 12 months, we could investigate and monitor those trees. We can investigate and monitor those trees, but there is no specific DA condition about the survival of those trees or the replacement of dead trees. The DA conditions as such, so I think that's where I was talking about the trees, and the register of the complaints. Council does receive the complaints. When we receive those complaints, we monitor them. We can go out there. There are compliance matters. If they're non-compliant to the DA, we will process the non-compliance like any other non-compliance of DA conditions.
Thank you for that. Does that cover off those questions? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also have some questions. They are 3, page 206. The LEP refers to what an outdoor recreation facility is, and highlighted there is go-kart track or place of a like character used for outdoor recreation. None of those activities include anything with a motor. I'm just wondering if that is still acceptable. The second question comes from page 216, social impact in the locality. And the first sentence says the development is unlikely to have a negative social impacts, way of life, which I presume is supposed to read way of life, culture, community, etc. Given the speakers against the motion today in public forum, I wonder how that statement can be made. And then finally, in the report, the noise report on page 257, it refers at 3.3 to the Protection of the Environment Operations Act 1997. And it talks about, rather than the volume of the noise, the nature of the noise. And it says there in the last paragraph, offensive noise needs to be adjudicated by an authorised officer from a regulatory authority. And obviously that hasn't happened, but there are a number of questions which are then put over the page and then answered. Who is that authority? Can we get an authorised officer from that authority to make that assessment? And I haven't heard of this before. I was just wondering if we'd have some explanation.
Thank you, Councillor. Director Scott.
Yes, sorry, I'm just going through. The first question was in relation to the outdoor recreational facilities and the use of of motors. Go-karts would be considered an outdoor recreational facility, and it would have a motor that we would use and would consider it something similar to a motocross track. I'm just trying to remember the other two questions. You referred to one to the page 237, was it? Sorry, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The next question related to page 216 and the comment that on social impact in the locality. And I was just wondering how the staff, given the obvious objection, can make the point that there are no negative social impacts.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the social impact on this occasion wouldn't be related to the private property as such. It would be about social impacts, given that it's located on a private property, that these events will be occurring, and most likely, except for the 2 training days, are going to be used by the residents or the owners of the property as such, or visitors of the owners of the property. It's not proposed to be a social gathering location where there would be likely to have social impacts as such that would impact the community at a wider level.
And the last one was in regard to the noise monitoring. Councillor Wallace, would you like to?
257.
Yes, page 257, 3.3, it refers in the last paragraph, offensive noise needs to be adjudicated by an authorised officer. I was wondering how that happens, whether it can happen, whether it should happen.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're looking at upskilling one of our environmental health officers into the use of noise monitoring equipment, and also looking at acquiring the particular equipment. In the past, we have gathered the equipment from other councils and used their qualified staff. Given the increase in noise pollution or complaints around noise, we're actually upskilling some of our staff and looking at acquiring that equipment, so that regulatory authority will be council.
Thank you for that, Director. Okay, so we might go, we've had some speakers around for questions. No one's actually spoke against it. I'll go back to Councillor Stadmiller to speak against the recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have issues with the amount of time that the track can be used, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and Saturday as well. I think that's a serious impost on the neighbours. I think if we're going to do it, and we are going to go ahead with the trial, it should be a 6-month trial. But I requested information today regarding Council's register of complaints, and during the previous period, however long that was, there was 3 complaints made, one in 2016, one in 2017, and one in 2019. I can't ascertain whether those contain the full list of complaints or not, but I think Council's possibly lacking an ability here to enforce or record this, which was just evident by the fact we have to upskill staff to deal with this. So I'm not against the riding of motorcycles in the country, but I think this is a little bit of a bridge too far. We need to scale it back, and I'd suggest a 6-month trial over a 12-month trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Would someone like to speak for the recommendation?
Mr. Mayor, I'll speak for the recommendation.
Councillor.
I support the application for the reasons stated by Councillor Tuckerman. Similar thoughts. I do share some concerns in regard to the potential for 5 days plus half-day Saturday in terms of operation, and I would probably be amenable to a slight reduction in regards to those days, perhaps back to 3 days through the week plus half-day Saturday. But fundamentally, all the boxes are ticked in terms of the compliance. If we can't do this in an area where the zoning allows it, then I don't know where you can. It's a little bit like a piggery, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. So would anyone like to speak against it? Councillor Manchester.
Yeah, can I move an amendment to the recommendation, Mr. Chair, that that the number of days, all the other conditions stay, but the number of days be reduced to 3 days a week plus the Saturday morning. Or Saturday was at 9 till 2, I think it was, but yeah, plus the Saturday. So 3 days a week plus the Saturday.
Okay, so we have an amendment. It's on the board. Just give us the pencil of time to second. No.
He moves amendments, he needs a seconder.
Pardon?
He needs a seconder.
So do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Walker seconds that amendment. Okay, councillors, we now deal with the amendment, which reads all conditions stay the same except the number of days has been reduced to 3 plus the Saturday. Is that right?
Monday to Friday, 3 days.
Monday to Friday, only 3 days, and then the Saturday.
The Saturday.
Would you like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Manchester?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I just listening to the people that had complained about this. They did say that that they had spoken to the Melrosses about the use of this track, and they did talk about offering a condition of probably going 3 or 4 days a week. That didn't, unfortunately, that wasn't accepted by the Melrosses. But look, I certainly like to see people, especially someone that's got a recognised worldwide for participation in any field, not just motocross, but in any field. But I believe that listening to what Tracy spoke about and the number of times that Hayden would use the track and the number of times a day he would use it, I think that 3 days a week, which then would help the local adjoining residents overcome, because there's no doubt in my mind, and I've been to a lot of motocross things, that there is a lot of noise, and that would be a major impact on the surrounding neighbours, whether it's only just for 1 or 2 hours, but if you're having other riders there, it could be for the whole day. So having it as 5 days a week plus the Saturday, that's 6 days, basically 6 days a week. That's a big impost on the surrounding neighbours. Thank you.
The amendment.
Anyone against the amendment?
No one to speak against the amendment? That's fine then. Would anyone else like to speak for the amendment? No. Okay, that being the case, the amendment's been up on screen. Does everyone fully understand what they're voting for? Or do you want to put back up again? Happy to vote on the amendment? So all those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Walker,
5.
Manchester, Horden, Stadmiller, Armstrong.
I need some counts.
5. So
who's recording for me?
So I've got Councillor Walker is for the amendment. Councillor Manchester is for the amendment.
Stadmiller.
Councillor Horden is for the amendment.
And
Councillor Stadmiller and Armstrong. That's 5.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Against?
Those against the amendment.
Tuckerman, Wallace, O'Connor, and Ingram. And we have Rolls as an apology and Councillor Flannery as an interest.
So
it's passed.
So the amendment is carried. So the amendment now becomes the motion. Councillors will now vote on the amended motion that is now the motion. So all those in favour of the motion, raise your hands.
We have Manchester, Chester, Horton, Tuckerman, Stadmiller, Armstrong, Walker, O'Connor.
Yep. Okay, those against?
Those against is Wallace and Ingram.
The motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. We now go back to the order of the agenda, which takes us to the General Manager's report. And the first item for the General Manager's report is the election of Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I received one nomination for Deputy Mayor, being Councillor Wallace, in the approved format, being signed by 2 councillors and accepted as a nomination.
Okay, I think that takes a lot of the rest of the report out of play, given that we've only had one nomination for the Deputy Mayor. So seeing that we're Skyping and Zooming as we are, I would ask councillors to put their hands in the air, please, when I call for the election of the Deputy Mayor, which with one nomination of Councillor Wallace. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors.
Unanimous.
That's unanimous. Congratulations, Councillor Wallace, for the remaining 12 months as a Deputy Mayor. And thank you for both yourself and Councillor Armstrong for taking some commitments that I couldn't make recently. Okay. 2178, next matter, cash and investment report. Reports there, councillors, and a recommendation. Moved Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Walker, thank you. Questions not. All those in favour of the recommendation? Unanimous. Councillor Stadmiller? Councillor Stadmiller, could I have your attention for a moment? Are you voting for or against?
Voting for.
Thank you. That's unanimous. 2179, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report. There's a report there, councillor, and the recommendation is receive and note the report. Moved Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Tuckerman. Questions, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2180, development application statistics for August 2020. Reports there, councillors, and a recommendation. Moved Councillor Armstrong. Seconded Councillor Flannery. Questions or discussions? If not, put that. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 2181, DA of 1511 GEEGULLALONG Road, MURRINGO. Not too sure of the pronunciation, but that's as good as it's going to get.
Mr. Mayor, I can help you with that. GEEGULLALONG.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. Thank you. A report is there, councillor, and a recommendation is there. Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Flannery. Any questions or discussions, or would the mover like to speak to his? Councillor Manchester's happy not to speak to him. Anyone like to speak against the recommendation? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It pains me to speak against any development in Young, but this one is not consistent with the minimums in the LEP, and I have been criticised in the past for not sticking for those, so I'm prepared to stick with them now. I do, however, note the comments from the state government in regard to the variation not being outside the public interest.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for that. Would the seconder like to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Flannery.
Mr. Mayor, consistent with my view on the impact that some of these lots have, I think it needs to be kept in mind, the impact, and I support it for that reason. When you look at the map of nearby areas. I think, A, it's good that there's the aggregation of a number of lots into one lot, and B, I support the overall implications, which is that it's not going to substantially erode the holdings.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. And anyone else like to speak against the recommendation? No? Okay, in that case, I'll put the recommendation that is Council grant consent to development application DA 2020/0127, generally in accordance with the conditions of consent in attachment 1. All those in favour?
Councillor Walker, Councillor Flannery.
Everyone except Councillor Armstrong.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Those against? Councillor Armstrong. Thank you, councillors. It's passed. Takes us to 2182, glass recycling issue. Now, councillors, there's a report there that explains it out and a recommendation.
Move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Second, Councillor Stadmiller.
Question 2.
Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
Did council contact Visi for their position on this?
We need to go to Director of Planning.
Director of Planning.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
Did council contact Visi for their position on this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, council hasn't contacted Visi in regards to this agreement.
Thank you for that. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Is any other questions or discussions in regard to the matter? Someone like to speak? Councillor Tuckerman.
Can I just ask a question? It appears that we received notification in March 2020. I'm just wondering why it took so long to come to council.
I'll pass to the Director of Planning.
Director of Planning once again.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we were ready for the report to go up to last council, but we just missed the timeline by a short slither. So it is here. With that as well, there's also been a slight change to the relocation of where waste is sitting, and unfortunately the administration of this request did get lost during that time, and I'll take full responsibility of that.
Thank you for that, Director. Okay, if there's no other questions in regard to it, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? You know everyone in me?
Councillor Wallace.
4, yep, thank you, Councillor. Those against? Councillor Wallace against. Thank you. That is passed.
I was for it, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Wallace. I thought your hand was there. You held it up too long for me. Councillor Wallace is on board. It was unanimous. Thank you. I do apologise.
Thank you.
When in doubt, I should ask. That's exactly right. Okay, 2183, Local Road and Community Infrastructure Program grant. There's a report there, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move a motion, please.
Councillor Armstrong would like to move a motion. Okay. Councillor Armstrong.
That motion will be a multiple part motion that Council A, receive and note the report, and B, endorse the balance of the grant by the nominated renewal works as tabled in the report, and commence renewal works in MURRUMBURRAH and HARDEN, and C, that Council immediately seek competitive quotations for the renewal of the young CBD footpaths as identified in Council Report 20/183, utilising 1, coloured concrete, and in the alternative, 2, asphaltic concrete, and D, the results of such quotes be provided to Council for final decision on the preferred paving material and colour schemes.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for that. Now, have we got that? Seconder?
Horton.
Councillor Horton, second that. Thank you, Councillor Horton. So I think we've got that there to put up, haven't we? Yep, I've been told. So we'll put that up so everyone can have a look at it for a start.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stadmiller, yep.
On page 130 for Harden, Miss Clark Street, replace sealed path with concrete pathway, plain concrete between rail underpass and school. And then page 130, underneath that, Harden, Bathurst Street, replace sealed pathway with concrete pathway, plain concrete placement between underpass and Neil Street. Basically what council has appeared to have done here is taken one path and broken it into two costings. They both commence at the underpass and go in different directions. Could the General Manager explain at what stage are we looking at procurement where two quotes are needed, 3 tenders and so forth, so that we can understand why this has happened?
Councillor, we go to Acting Director, or Acting, Mr. Chris. I'll call him Mr. Chris, please.
Through the Mayor, the intention would be to, even though we've broken up the job lots as we have in the report, that we would go out to tender, amalgamating those projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Did everyone get a good look at what the motion was when I was up on the board, so everyone understands what it's all about? Okay. So, Councillor Armstrong, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I thank the General Manager for putting this matter back up again. The purpose of my recommendation or motion is to actually ensure that the works at Harden and Burrua are able to proceed. There is still, as a result of the great disparities between the identified cost for concrete and asphaltic concrete, I think that we need to go back out to the market to shore up those estimates. Certainly, in a brief poll of shop owners in that particular part of the Burrua Street, there was a dramatic preference to have both the northern side and the southern side of Burrua Street look the same, rather than having dissimilar appearances, as is currently the case. I think that if we can get that information back to council, then it allows council to make a better informed decision based upon real prices, and hopefully we get the best outcome for our community.
Thank you. You can take that down if you like now, please, Deirdre. Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong, for that explanation. That covers off some questions I might have had about it. Would anyone like to speak against Councillor's motion? No? Okay. Thank you for the explanation. It made it clearer for everyone, I think. So, having that in mind, Councillor Stadmiller.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. I'm still unclear at what stage we have to have two quotations or two quotes or 3 tenders in regards to the procurement policy, which states that we only have to request tenders at $150,000 or $250,000 now. At what stage can the General Manager answer me when we get the 2 quotes, the 3 quotes, whatever, and how that process works? The procurement policy has headings in front of me such as value for money, open and effective competition, transparency and accountability, ethical behaviour, fair and honest dealing. I just wanted to make sure that at all times Council's adhering to its procurement policy, and I'm unclear when we call for different quotations and tenders.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. I've got people here chomping at the bit to answer your question. You have to go to Director Hughes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll pass to the Director of Corporate, Mr. Hughes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that depends on the nature of the work and the contract. When a tender is called, it would depend on whether council has a panel contract for the services, and for this particular work I'd have to take that question on notice, whether we have a panel contract for that particular service, unless Mr. Crisp is aware. He may wish to answer, or leave it with me to take on notice.
Thank you for that, Director Hughes. We'll take that on notice. Okay. Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add that it's good to see that the Harden and Burrua works will proceed, but I tend to agree that I find it hard to believe that asphalt is cheaper than concrete. And if you have a street half at asphalt and half concrete, we look like we're living in Guns Gully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor...
Mr Mayor, the report notes that without going into the details of the costing of putting it down, there are negative implications of using asphaltic concrete if pavement has to be cut up for any reason for services, and that's one of the downsides to using asphaltic concrete. I'm just a little bit concerned that we're dragging this out and we'll be, incurring costs, O&M costs down the track for the sake of saving money.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, for that. Look, Councillor Armstrong, unless you want to have a response to that, I'm quite happy to put the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In a previous critical questioning undertaken by myself of staff, it was actually indicated that both concrete footpaths and asphaltic concrete footpaths require cutting to unearth the subterranean services. So I'm just at a bit of a loss as to what Councillor Flannery's point is there. I guess the big difference here is that in the case of asphaltic concrete, it can be patched far more easily, and in cases it can actually be sealed over with an emulsion style seal as well, if need be. Whereas perhaps with concrete, to do something like that turns it into a patchwork quilt.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, for that. That being said, councillors, the recommendation, the motion that was put there by Councillor Armstrong, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All bar Councillor Flannery, haven't we?
Yeah.
Those against? Councillor Flannery noted as being against. Thank you, councillors. That's been passed. 2184, the Hilltops Works Report. There's a report there, councillors, and a recommendation. We have a mover and a seconder to start us off. Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tuckerman, thank you. Any questions or queries in regard to that? Councillor O'Connor's got a hand in the air.
I'd just like to thank staff for that report on the Chinese gardens. Thank you. I understand what you were doing now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stadmiller, do you have your hand there?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Just want to inquire as to when Tim Doolan Oval in Harden will receive some water. McLean Oval at the moment is still receiving water and very green, and the cricket season is impending.
Mr Crisp. Pass to Mr Crisp, I'd imagine.
Through the Mayor, I'll have to take that one on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery has his hand. Councillor Flannery. You're on mute, Councillor.
Apologies. I'd like to thank the Director and staff for the report. It is certainly providing far more detail. One question on page 133 under Works Forecast completed, 13th of August to 9th of September. It has Burley Griffin Way pavement patching 800 square metres, pavement crack sealing 900 square metres, and then there's 2 lines in between, and it has Burley Griffin Way pavement patching 800 square metres, and again 900 square metres. So is that a separate job? So is it 1,600 square metres and 1,800, or is it 900 square metres? And again, with the vegetation, have there been 2 lots of vegetation control, or did the job have to be done twice? And is 800 square metres the equivalent of 80 lineal metres?
I'll pass to Mr Crisp, I'd imagine, on that one as well.
Through the Mayor, that is a repeat. Those 2 works have been repeated somehow in that works, and I apologise for that. As far as that pavement patch is concerned, it's 800 square metres, but it's not consecutive. So we do have a 9 metre wide pavement out there most of the time on average. So that length would be transcribed from that, but it is variable.
Thank you for that, Mr Crisp. And I suggest in their enthusiasm to make the works report look larger than it actually is, Councillor Flannery. They've been a slip of a double up there on a couple of matters, but yeah. So you happy with that, Councillor Flannery?
Well, I'd like to compliment the staff on doing it. I'd also actually like to compliment, I assume it was the Harden Road crew, but it was noted in the Forward Works report that Moppity Road work was occurring, and it happened very quickly and efficiently, was my observation, having travelled over it a number of times. So I'd like to commend staff there. I do have concerns about how flat it is and the water that's going to run down the road. But time will tell, but certainly it was done very efficiently.
Thank you for that, and I'm probably pretty sure it would have been workers from the Hilltops Council area, but yep, thank you. Compliments are always accepted, and that's what we need to do. When staff get things wrong, we tend to ask a lot of questions, and when staff get things right, we need to make sure that they've got the confidence of us as councillors to acknowledge that. So I thank you, Councillor Flannery, for that. Unless there's any more questions on the works report, I'll put that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2185 is the action summary report, with the report and a recommendation there. Moved, Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Manchester. Any questions in regard to that report? Councillor Tuckerman, I think. Yep. Councillor Tuckerman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to, I didn't receive attachment 2. Did anyone else receive attachment 2, the management questions on notice? No, so I'm not alone. It wasn't included in the business paper, just for the General Manager's information. Can I also just make a bit of a comment in regards to questions that are asked at the meeting, that those answers to those questions put for councillors actually do make the business paper, because I think in the interest of transparency and the community are interested to find out what the answers are to some of those questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would you like to comment, Mr. General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly we can make that happen.
Thank you. And Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.620/158 private weeds works. So it was obviously remiss of me in the last meeting not to put a date in that motion. So can we get a commitment date, please, put there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the weeds, given the introduction of our new Director of Infrastructure, that was one of her first tasks, to get across how that may work and the business plan that may be appropriate to put forward to councillors for their consideration. So I can certainly put that forward. Ms. Nell is starting on the 6th of October, so I'll have that discussion with her, and if not the October meeting, certainly the November meeting, we should be able to have a business plan to you.
Thank you.
Councillor Flannery.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's great to have this report, but I noticed some of the standard motions are actually creeping into the report. I think in the interests of keeping it within everyone's attention, it would be preferable where the report deals with either questions on notice or outstanding matters. If you look at the report, it's got things like the energy saving certificates are in there twice. You know, I think we can just delete. If it's a motion that comes before council, in my view, it should just be, it doesn't even need to enter this report. But I do think where there's an ongoing question or motion from council, such as the weeds report, if you note on page 145, it says the request for report recommencement of private weeds control, and it's noted as completed, and yet Councillor Wallace moved the motion, which was adopted by council, that we investigate a council entering into a private weeds business. So that needs a bit of clarification.
Yep, certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that we have attempted to do is, when I first came here, there were some outstanding motions that had been completed, but there had been further questions from councillors or motions. So the first weed control that receive a report. Council did receive a report. From that report, there was a request for a further investigate the development of a business model. That was a secondary one. So I'm trying to keep consistency, as in we don't have things hanging around for years that are otherwise they've morphed into something else. I'm just trying to track those so it's current and it's real. So the report was given to council. The live action point is the Weeds report that is yet to come to council about the business case.
Thank you for that, Councillor.
It's my view, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's my view that if we're going to keep this relevant, that that report came to council. Yes, it was completed, but there was a follow-up action, so it's actually ongoing. I don't believe the process of that initial request has been completed. It's been, and I think the initial motion was perhaps misunderstood or not clearly delineated, so a follow-up action occurred. So I think what we are trying to identify is where there's a request or a motion that hasn't been resolved, and if there's it either remains outstanding or there's a follow-up action or it's ongoing. That's how I see it. I don't know if other councillors have a view on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the point that has the private weeds works, being the motion 2158 and the resolution that 187, investigate the development, that is live on page 151. So it is still recorded. What I'm trying to do is where things morph into different things, trying to still keep it live. Your question is still live. It is still recorded as outstanding, but that initial report was prepared. That it didn't hit the mark, we've come back with the second motion to present you with another report.
Councillor Tuckerman.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask if can be excused for the meeting for a short moment?
You may well be, the bells are ringing. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Tuckerman, excused from the meeting at 5:50. 5:50, near enough. That's recorded, thank you. Okay, councillors, we've had the chat and staff taken on board Councillor Flannery's comments and Councillor Wallace's comments in regard to that weed spraying. So I'll put that report. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2186 is the media release and Office of Local Government circulars and the recommendations there, council. I've moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to council committee reports requiring action. And we have one here from the Hilltops Council Local Traffic Advisory Committee. There's a report there, councillors, and a recommendation.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Manchester.
Can I just make a comment there, please, Mr. Chair?
Comment.
Yeah, just in that report, and I think the GM for in his newsletter mentioning that the signs have come down on some of the railway bridges at John Holland. Basically closed. I'm just a bit concerned. The only thing I could see wrong with those bridges was they're structurally sound, except that John Holland's more concerned about someone running into the side of those bridges and the possible impact on the track below. But those bridges have been there for probably 70 or 80 years or maybe more. They are very structurally sound as far as carrying the waste concerned. But I'm a little bit concerned that maybe in the future, John Holland will just come in and close those bridges. And we need to keep a close eye on this. And I think we need to probably take political leverage and call on Steph Cook and Wendy to put pressure on so that John Holland just don't come in there and close, because that is a major impact on the farming fraternity either side of those bridges. The one on Linden Road, for instance, it would make a difference of cartage for stock and grain, a difference of probably 100 kilometres if they close that bridge to a weight limit. For anyone that's close to that bridge, could be add another 100 kilometres return trip to take their grain or their livestock to or from their property. And that does concern me with John Holland, because they know what they like. They will actually just come in and close something without, which they did before, and put restrictions on it without keeping us informed.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Manchester. Mr. Crisp, would you like to respond to any of that? It's not necessary, but if you've got any information.
Through the Mayor, I share Councillor Manchester's sentiments there about just where we might lead to. These bridges are over 100 years old, and they're not going to last forever. And I've got some concerns about their replacement program. I believe they don't have one, and that's a massive concern for me, for the network. And I think that's where some leverage should be applied back into the state government realm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crisp. Councillor Flannery.
Mr. Mayor, could I just move an amendment to the motion? Could I add a point C that the General Manager or Mayor, whoever is appropriate, write to local member Steph Cook, local member Tuckerman, and local federal member McCormick about these bridges as a matter of urgency, expressing our concerns.
Is the mover and seconder happy for that amendment to go in that dot point? They both say yes, they are, so that will become part of the recommendation. Deirdre, you're right with that? Yep. So that will be point C of that recommendation, councillors.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, would you also include Angus Taylor as the fourth member in that mix?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just as a comment, Mr. Mayor, like Councillor Manchester said, I've had a lot of phone calls from farmers and the community about the initial closure of these bridges and then the ongoing hazard that has occurred as a result of the closure. There was nearly a near accident on the Wombat Bridge the other day when we had that morning fog, because it's down to one lane and two cars ended up, or a truck and a car ended up on the bridge together, which would not have occurred previously. It is a serious concern that is actually leading to more hazards, not less.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, no, I think everyone would agree on that point. And Councillor Stadmiller.
I just want to raise a point regarding traffic in Murrumburrah at the moment, across the road from the Elpra fuel station, for the members of the committee who are councillors. There's a petrol tanker being left in a slip lane with no prime mover in front of it. I don't know whether it's council's role, the police role, or the RMS's role, but this is actually blocking a lane of traffic which is used for vehicles to go to the left of the vehicle in front of it when it turns into the service station, and it needs attention very quickly. If the General Manager or the relevant councillors on that committee can address that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. On that note, with that recommendation and dot point C being there, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to 2188. Committee reports requiring no action. Councillors, some information there and receive a note. I'm going to move in a seconder for that. Councillor Walker, thank you. Seconded Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? Unanimous again. Thank you, councillors. Flick over to 2189. Questions with notice. There's questions there from the Deputy Mayor, Anthony Wallace. Councillor Wallace, would you like to talk to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the questions are fairly self-explanatory. I've made a couple of points. In relation to the response to the first question, I brought this because it was pretty well publicised in the press that a lot of zones in the state had out-of-date bushfire risk management strategies. The Southwest Slope Zone 1 is 9 years old, and by legislation they are supposed to be renewed every 5 years. These are important documents because they list assets within the council area and they provide a means by which fires will be managed. The document that's provided in this paper is not the bushfire risk management plan. So my question still stands as it is, because the document that's been provided in the paper is an operations coordination plan, which is not the bushfire risk management plan at all. So are council staff able, sorry, I've just fallen off the tree. Council staff able to answer the question as I put it? I suppose that's my first response. And then the other point I'd like to go to is number 4, about renewable energy. Highlighted by the, I put this question in previously, but or prior to it, but the visit by the Australian Museum and Tim Flannery last Friday. From what I hear, there are significant funding opportunities for councils and other organisations to look into renewable energy projects. And if we haven't got anyone in council working on this to seek these sort of funds and make our community, potentially have much cheaper power, then we should. So that's probably not a question, but the first one in relation to the risk management plans definitely is, because it's for the safety of our community.
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I apologise for the misunderstanding of the terminology of the documents. I made the inquiry of the relevant officer, and they directed me to this document. That it is not the document, I apologise, and I'll make inquiries to rectify that.
I have significant concerns if the relevant officer couldn't point you in the direction of the correct document.
Yep. That's probably a valid point, Councillor. I'd agree. And yes, the minutes will be circulated. I sit on that committee when it meets, and I apologise that the minutes previously haven't been sent out to all councillors, but they have been now, and they will continue to be forwarded on to everyone, as with the country mayors that I went to, and so we forward CRJO, so everyone knows what's going on and what's happening when we're as a council. So. And the answer's there at the library. Councillor Wallace only just notified last week, maybe the week before, a phone call in regard to there will be an announcement to the successful tenderer. Again, my hands are a bit tied, which I don't enjoy all that much. In regard to, will be a joint announcement between Education Department and New South Wales and Council, and that release will go out when it's approved by the media people from their side, which. I understand could be in the next week. So the tender has been let, but just to who it is officially at the moment hasn't been divulged. So as soon as that comes out, there will be a joint announcement about that point. Councillor Tuckerman.
I'd just like to note in the minutes that I have returned to the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, councillors. Receive a note the following. I've got a mover and a seconder for that, please, for Councillor Wallace's motion. Move Councillor Wallace, of course, and Councillor Armstrong's happy to second it. And all those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Councillor Tuckman, we include you. Were you there for that discussion, or?
No, I'm just wondering what the motion was, Mr. Mayor.
It was to receive and note the questions and answers requested by Councillor Wallace.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Happy to support that motion.
Thank you. That takes me over to, we dealt with the next one, 162. We go to page, where am I lost? 202. We go to confidential. That brings us to our closed portion of the meeting. Could I have someone move that we move into closed, council? Moved, Councillor Horton. Seconded, Councillor Flannery. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. We will now move into the closed section of our meeting.
So we go to confidential matters, which is 305 is the start of the KRUGER.
Yep. Item number 2192 was approved as stated in the report and closed as a recommendation read. 2193 Murrumburrah Precinct Project Implementation Plan was approved as reported to Council. The management and disposal of stormwater was approved and passed as reported to Council. Item 2195, the award of the contract in regard to TRESILLIAN Park, has had some amendments made to it. I would ask that those amendments could be read out. I haven't got them in front of me.
Yes.
That Council A, receive and note the report on RFT 526 of 220, detailed design and construction of the TRESILLIAN Park Inclusive Playground. B, award contract number 526 of 220.
Don't mention the person at this point.
And C, subject to further soil testing for asbestos on the site. If asbestos is found, the project come back to Council for consideration and delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of this contract.
Thank you for that. The next item was 2196, the line marking services panel contract, which was resolved as the report indicated to Council. It was accepted. 2197, the Safety Barrier products, the panel contract was the same, was adopted by Council as per the recommendation. And item 2198, the supply and delivery of bulk diesel fuel tender panel contract, again was accepted and adopted by Council as per the report that was put in front of Council. So that concludes the business that was conducted in closed Council. That being the end of our business, I will call the Council meeting closed at 6:40.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question. The Council meeting is closed, so we'll go off screen.